This is about 3 months ago, but I still can't get it off my mind. I live right on the border of the Navajo land, and it makes that much worse. It was about 2 a.m., and I was staying at my best friend's house. He had just gotten his motorcycle license, so since we couldn't sleep like dumb kids, we decided to go out riding. We rode out to this little mudding trail in the middle of the forest, where we could ride around and do whatever we wanted. We came to a stop at the end of the trail, and that creepy feeling of being watched started to kick in. I heard light footsteps coming from my right, deeper into the forest. At this point, my friend got off the bike and went to take a piss, leaving me all alone. As I look out into the forest, I could swear I saw a pair of eyes looking back at me, but they didn't have the glare that came from animal eyes. My friend then shouted out, "Sheesh, this is a big one," sounding like a complete idiot. And then as I see him walking back to the bike, I hear an exact replica of what my friend said coming back from the direction where I saw the creepy eyes earlier. And no, I'm not joking, it sounded literally exactly the same. At this point, me and my friend both just looked at each other and then asked, "Was that you?" He responded with a resounding, "Hell no." We immediately both got on the bike and rode back home as fast as we could. The entire time I was trying to shake away all the fear I had. I've heard they feed off your fears and negative energy. I haven't been back to that forest since, and I don't think I ever will. It's 3:08 a.m. I live in the Las Cruces area in New Mexico. I'm not really sure what happened, but I guess I was having what you would call an episode. In the episode, I was awake, sideways in position that I fell asleep in, and I could see everything normally. However, my pillow was somewhat in the way of the doorway, so I couldn't see outside my room and into the hallway, so I started freaking out a little bit. I noticed I couldn't move no matter what I tried, and I felt like there was something at the door watching me. And for some reason, my first thoughts were Skinwalker. Immediately after the thought entered my brain, my eyes started to strain and ache, like a pulling sensation, but in no direction, just the feeling. At the same time, I could see a transparent figure, and I could all of a sudden hear everything that was happening outside, but it was amplified. I could hear every bug and every branch moving, and the wind was so loud, I thought I would go deaf. Every time I thought of the word, it would just amplify the noise, and the number of figures would increase. For some reason, I kept thinking of it on purpose. I wasn't scared, I was curious. After a little bit of spamming the word, there was 6 figures, and all I could hear was a very loud wind noise. I decided to just relax and take a deep breath. Next thing I knew, I was awake. I could move, and I moved my pillow away from the doorway frantically, and there was nothing there. I looked to my right and saw my window was more open than usual, and I have not looked at it or even thought of peeking outside. Normally, I would just think that this was a normal episode, but recently my dog has been acting scared of my room, and he's been crying every now and then when he sleeps in my room. 2 weeks ago, my uncle was in his car outside, and he swears he saw my dad walking outside with a cigarette while my dad was still working his shift. My sister, who sleeps next door, says she sometimes hears little kids while she's playing video games or trying to sleep. I'm not really sure what's going on, but the fact that the word Skinwalker was like a trigger word creeped me out. This is all real. The episode happened, and I decided to just write it out after calming down. I live in the Fair Acres, New Mexico. If anyone in Las Cruces is having similar experiences, text me. P.S. Before I fell asleep, I was not thinking of any Skinwalker or anything of the sort. I was thinking about sports. It is now 3:35 a.m. I'll never forget the night of August 14th, 2021. I was fishing the river with my friend in a suburb of Minneapolis. We loved coming to this public park to fish because it was quiet and there was a nice sandbar to fish from. This park had a Sinex burial mound and about half a mile from our spot. After fishing for the better part of the day, we decided to leave at dusk. In order to get back to our vehicles, we had to take a trail through the woods, which was about a 5-minute walk. I put a clip lay on the bill of my hat so we could see the trail. I remember when I first glanced ahead down the trail, I saw 2 circular white lights that I assumed were fireflies. Once we got further down the trail, we were closer to the area where I'd seen the fireflies. It was then that I saw a pair of eyes that were either highly reflective from my light or glowing white. It wasn't long before I could make out a body. It was a very large white body on 4 legs, bigger than a wolf, but unnaturally skinny. I couldn't make out any facial features because its eyes were so bright. I wanted to warn my friend, but all I could manage to say was, "There's something there." We had no choice but to proceed, because this was the only way back to our vehicles. This thing just stared us down, but it didn't make a sound. My friend yelled at it to try to scare it away, but it didn't react at all. I yelled at it after she did, and it responded back mimicking my voice. I honestly questioned myself and thought if I was imagining things. So I yelled at it again, and it responded back at the same volume, same pitch, exactly like my voice. At this point, we realized that this was not an animal. We both continued on the path in silence, but I maintained eye contact with the creature. I felt like this thing was ready to attack us at any moment, but it just stood there, staring. Eventually, we were out of the woods, and I could no longer see its eyes. We made it back to our vehicles, and I felt a sense of relief. I asked my friend, "Did you hear that talk back to me?" She said she did, and it sounded like my voice when it responded back to me. If she hadn't heard the voice, I would have assumed I imagined it. We went over what happened, and our stories were the same, except she said the creature had a wolf-like head. A little detail first. I live in the Ozark Mountains. I have about 63 acres of land on a mountain, and I'm about 20 minutes from both towns near me. My house was originally a cabin built in the 1800s that someone had built onto. I don't have much more knowledge of the house because all the paperwork was burned in a courthouse fire. Weird shit has always happened in and around the house, but those are the stories for a different time. Last year around February, I had a huge argument with my husband and decided to go hike up the mountain to cool off. My husband went to work on his Jeep, and my 5 dogs and I went up to the mountain. Normally, my dogs run around through the trees, but they always keep me in their sights. This time, they stuck very close to me. I noted it and just assumed it was because they knew how upset I was. We made it to the clearing, and it just seemed so still up there. I felt a little uneasy, but ignored it, and climbed up our deer stand. I sat up there for about 20 minutes, took some pictures, and looked down to see my dogs at the base of the tree, standing in different directions, in alert stances. The feeling of dread washed over me. I scrambled down the deer stand and walked across the clearing with dogs in tow. I did not want to run because we do have predators up here. All of a sudden, I could hear a loud whistling. I stopped immediately in my tracks. My dogs are now on high alert, and all staring behind me to the left. My husband's voice came from that direction. He was screaming my name like something was wrong. I can't not describe the fear that came over me. I continued to walk down the mountain. I walked over to my husband and asked him what was wrong. He looked at me, confused, and told me he had no idea what I was talking about. I kind of forgot this moment until today. I woke up to loud whistling outside of my house around 4:40 or 5 o'clock a.m. It was the same whistle I used to call my dogs home. Parts of the whistle was wrong, though. All of my dogs were inside, and my husband was still asleep. Part of me told myself to go check it out, but a voice in my head said to stay in bed, and I listened to that voice. I was responding to a call in the middle of the Mojave Desert around 10 p.m. on a lonely road that leads to Pahrump, Nevada. As I was driving, I see to my left a human-like figure running through the desert. The man-shaped creature was all black and appeared to be running like 30 miles an hour. I turned on my lights and pointed in that direction, but it vanished. I freaked out a bit, called my girl, and told myself I'm new to the area. I'm probably just afraid and tripping out. I handled my call and forget it happened. 2 weeks go by. I responded to a call with my partner who was driving his own patrol car. My partner arrested a guy in a car, so I waited with the suspect until the tow driver arrived. I sat in my car in the darkness. No biggie. I see the tow driver in the distance headed my way. As he arrives, the tow driver immediately comes to my car and says, "Are you alright?" I say, "I'm fine." And he says he wanted to come check on me. He says that because he just saw a man running away from my car. I told him, "Shut the fuck up, bro." He says, "Yeah, it looked like a tall man wearing all black, running full speed away from your car." I tell him to get into my car, and he and I go search for the guy, but we don't find anything. At this point, I get back to the office and share my experience. They all think I'm crazy. A few weeks go by, I'm on call on a traffic collision with parties ejected. After clearing the scene, I walk back to my car. I hear some screams for help near my car. I start to yell, "Where are you?" and point at my flashlight. I see nothing. A partner who was near me also hears them. We both go searching, but the screams stop, and we never found anything. 2 months ago, my boyfriend and I moved out to a bigger city in the woods. We both lived in the country before, and my hometown is the next town over. We both feel comfortable here, but since we moved, things had gotten progressively weirder. We live on about 2 acres of mid-Michigan, and behind the house is nothing but woods. We have 2 animals, a 1-year Doberman and a 4-year Maine Coon, a big breed cat. It's currently midwinter here, and we've been hit by a few good snowstorms since Christmas. Also, the house is surrounded by motion-sensing lights and cameras. In the first week we moved in there, it was like what sounded like someone pacing back and forth in the tree line. When we called out to it, there was no reply, but the pacing did not stop either. This continued not every night, but often. The next week, whatever it was also started murmuring to itself in the woods. This creeped me the hell out. We stopped hanging out at the patio after that. Next, the motion lights would randomly turn on. Not thinking much of it because we do live in the woods, and animals such as deer frequent our backyard. I just ignored it. Yet over the next few nights, it got to the point where the lights just don't ever turn off, like something is constantly triggering them. Remember, we're in Michigan. There's been a good coat of snow on the ground for weeks now. Theoretically, we should see the tracks from whatever is keeping the lights on, right? However, there are no tracks in the snow whatsoever, not even deer. Since this happened, our animals have been starting to act strange. The Doberman sits at the back door and barks. Not just any bark, but the kind that makes you feel like he's about to tear someone's head off. I've literally never heard him this amped up, and we've had him since 8 weeks. Yet, when you open the door to let him out, he becomes timid. He won't wander too far into the back, and he'll never go to the tree line. Sometimes he won't go outside at all. It's just like all he wants to do is sit there and let his presence be known. The Maine Coon is just as interested in the backyard, constantly staring off into the distance. If he's finally broken his gaze, then he's following me around, meowing at me if he's trying to tell me something. Tonight was the scariest shit I've ever experienced. Our backslide is in the living room, and just outside is our patio. We're sitting on the couch winding down for the night. Both animals and my boyfriend are all asleep in the living room with me, but I'm up, watching TikTok. Then I hear what sounded like our dog outside whimpering in distress, like he's cold or hurt. However, I am looking at our dog, and he is no more than 5 feet from me, knocked out on the couch. I try to ignore this, but it continues, and then I wake up my boyfriend. It then of course stops, and I let it go thinking I'm just hearing things. He falls back asleep, and I settle back under the blanket with him. Then I hear what sounds like our cat outside whimpering, but our cat is on my lap purring. This is when I get up and make my boyfriend go check it out. He walks the perimeter of the house, as I peek my head out of the slider to watch. We both hear branches snapping in the woods, but no tracks where I heard the animals whining. Our motion lights have been on for over 6 hours straight now, and the noises have lessened, but continued. Our cameras haven't picked up anything, and there are still no tracks in the snow. I'm so confused, and have no clue what to do.